All right, let's get it rolling here. Good afternoon, everyone. Emily Karlichek with Paulson's Audio and Video. I'm the Director of Marketing and Outreach, and I'm so grateful to you for being with us today and throughout the week if you have been. So wanted to thank you again for being a part of Music Matters, especially in this different delivery method that we're doing, but we're all having to continue to get used to. So today on the call, guys, I'm going to shout your names out if you can wave when I do. We have Chris Volk from GoldenEar. We have Isaac Markowitz from AudioQuest. Rick Blair from AudioQuest. Frédéric Pinsonneault from AudioQuest. And we have Dan Paulson and Chris Paulson from Paulson's Audio and Video. And again, I myself am Emily, and we are thanking you for being with us. A couple of reminders for those who are still connecting to audio, chat box in the bottom center of your screen. Please do not hesitate to throw questions in there. Anyone who submitted one ahead of time, we have that queued up to ask at the appropriate time in case it doesn't get answered first, which is usually how it happens. And if you are not seeing the speaker when they start presenting, just hit that view button in the upper right and go to speaker view. With that said, we have a lot to cover from a couple of fantastic brands in a short amount of time. So I'm going to hand it over to the teams from AudioQuest and GoldenEar to fight it out of who gets to go first. And I will have myself, Dan, and Chris mute ourselves and turn off our screens so that we are not distracting. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you everyone for being here today. So my name, as Emily said, I'm Frédéric Pinsonneault. I'm based in Montreal, Canada. With me today from AudioQuest, I have Isaac Markowitz, who's in sunny Colorado. How are you doing, Isaac?
Greetings and salutations, everyone. It's 43 degrees today, and I am thrilled. It's really warm. Thanks.
Cool. And I got the big question probably everybody on the call has today. Why AudioQuest?
That's such a great question, Fred, and I appreciate you tossing that over to me. The reason at AudioQuest is because we are enthusiasts. One of the things that really is the hallmark of what we do is trying to provide as much education as possible. And one of the first crazy cable truths is, and to make all the people who question us all the time feel better, is cables can't make anything better. In fact, the men and women at Paulson's trying to create and craft an extraordinary experience for you really want to build what you see on screen. But we live in an era where noise and distortion permeates everything, and it works its way into the system. And over time, without the right interconnects, without the right cables, you do have an opportunity to induce more noise and distortion. So in 1980, the founder of AudioQuest, Bill Lowe, started to make this a thing. And not only did he want to talk about cables not making your system better, he talked about how they could only make them less bad. And that really led to the hallmark philosophy of AudioQuest, something that you'll hear us say a lot, you'll read a lot in our advertisements, which is do no harm. Now, here's the thing, all cables add noise and distortion. We said it, here's a visual representation of the most simple signal that exists, which is a digital signal. It's ones and zeros, right? So a 1 or a 0. But noise couples to that. That's radio frequency noise that we pump into our environment, and all of a sudden together, it makes it a lot harder for your DAC or the receiving component to understand which bit is a 1 or a 0. So how do we minimize noise and distortion? Well, let's talk about the way that we enjoy other things in life, and that's by using better ingredients. I grew up occasionally eating an 85-cent box of mac and cheese-like powder product. That plus a couple of sliced up hot dogs was pretty cool. But then my buddy Fred introduced me to a world-class restaurant where we got to eat really hand-pulled pasta, raclette cheese, gorgonzola, really fabulous ingredients with a little bit of crab meat. And I would argue both of these things are mac and cheese. You would identify them as such, but the ingredients make them fundamentally different. At AudioQuest, we look at it the same way. It's the ingredients that make things different. So we deploy superior materials, we use superior design, and thus we can extract superior performance. And we try to make it simple for you by calling out those individual ingredients. The core philosophy, wherever we can deploy these, we use solid core conductors, and that's true of our HDMI cables. Why solid core conductors? Well, it's really easy with the visual metaphor to imagine that every single conductor in any cable connected to any device is going to both emit and attract radio frequency interference and also the electromagnetic interference of the component it's connected to. If we have one solid core, we have one field of distortion to contend with versus multiple. You could imagine this as a series of ripples over a pond. If you're fishing, if you're admiring the scenery, the little placid events below the surface of the water, a single set of ripples is quite easy to see below. However, if you have lots of ripples, lots of rocks being thrown in simultaneously, all of a sudden you can't see anything underneath that surface. A typical stranded conductor can have dozens, sometimes hundreds. A famous company once claimed 230 plus conductors per side. That's 230 fields of distortion versus one solid core. In a conventionally designed HDMI cable, there are 19 individual conductor sets. That is hundreds of fields of distortion for a conventionally designed HDMI cable compared to AudioQuest. More conductors equals more distortion. If you've been around audio for some time, you've heard about the difference of different metal qualities. That's still true at AudioQuest as well. Metal quality is largely about the surface of that metal. And so you can imagine this as the road that you would be traveling down. If you know me, I'm an avid cyclist. I actually broke this arm in 2 places last year, traveling down a road that looked too much like the one on the left too fast. When you look at copper drawn very quickly, it's pitted and stained and teared. It's not because other companies don't care. They're really trying to make you the best product for the least amount of money possible, and time is money. If you can slow down the process, if you can extrude the metal much more slowly, you get something like a long grain copper or even perfect surface metals. And this allows for a much smoother surface with less distortion because we're able to funnel noise away from those critical components more easily. If you look at our line, you can easily distinguish this. We call them long grain copper, perfect surface copper, and perfect surface copper plus. The perfect surface materials are proprietary. So we are the only company in the world currently deploying these. And where performance matters most, it is well known that silver is the material that defines conductivity. So if you have the privilege of owning a system that wants the best, or you yourself are a performance enthusiast who wants something really special, we have products like Diamond, we have products like Wind, and we have products like Dragon, which will deploy that perfect surface silver material. And I'll tell you, it is not about the audio signal. One of the misconceptions here is that it transmits the signal better. It's all about dissipating noise more effectively. So when you look at that experience, again, our goal is to try to bring back what Paulson's and team were designing for you in the first place. But one of the questions that I get all the time is, this is great, the technology is cool, but Fred, who benefits the most from AudioQuest cables? Is it everybody? Is it some people? Maybe it's just for the people who care the most about performance, right?
It is. For performance is really important, Isaac. Thank you. But it's also anybody with a passion, right? Everybody loves music or sports or in my case, cinema. And if your passion matters to you, you want to get the best out of it, and you always want more year after year. And obviously entertainment is really important. And if you're here today and if you're a customer of Paulson, home entertainment is really important. And it's our home is our domain, our castle, and we want to enjoy it. And yes, maximum performance of the gear we've purchased, the gear we're dreaming of purchasing is important, and cables are part of this solution. And obviously for movies and for video, HDMI is a very, very important component of this. And we at AudioQuest launched a new HDMI 48 series late last year. And I want to talk to you guys about it a little bit. We launched the first full line of HDMI cable. So a couple of companies have launched a single product. We revamped our entire line to be ready for this new technology. And why? Well, there's already TVs on the market. There's already products right now that require this new specification called HDMI 2.1. And we wanted to make the cables ready for the folks buying the new TVs from all the major manufacturers. Same thing with receivers, same thing with sound bars. And of course, those new game consoles. So the PlayStation and the Xbox are really, really pushing the limits of what you can do at home on your TV in terms of quality of resolution, of bandwidth, of frame rate. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about that. So in the previous generation, in the 2.0 world, which was a few years ago, you needed up to 18 gigabits. The new standard moves it to 48 gigabits. Why? Well, video, as soon as you increase resolution and bandwidth and frame rate, it goes up by a lot. If you look at 1080p, which was a Blu-ray, 2.3 gigs. 4K 24, which is a UHD movie or something you'll get on Netflix or Disney or Amazon in 4K and 24 frames is about 11 gig. 8K 24 is 32 gig. 4K 120 for a high frame rate, or 8K at 60, 40 gigs when you're talking 10 bits. and even 48 gig. So there was a new cable, there was a new connection needed. And that new cable you see on screen. It is really a new set of tolerances and a new design. So the number of conductors have stayed the same. What you see on screen is our Pearl 48 as a cutaway. And there were originally 3 channels for the data to travel through. On screen, you'll see them as the orange, white, green, white, and yellow, white pair. Each could do 6 gigs, so 3 times 6 equaled 18, and you can do up to 18 gig. To increase the bandwidth, there was a 4th lane added to this highway. So instead of 3 channel, the blue and white was reassigned for a 4th data channel and made equal in construction and spec. And at AudioQuest, all the improvements, all the metals and noise dissipation that Isaac talked about are there as well. So instead of 3 times 6, it's 4 times 12. And then the last channel you see, the brown and white, is for the audio return channel. And AudioQuest, we care so much, we build that channel equal to the other 4, because sound matters just as much as audio. The way to increase bandwidth is by doing a tighter twist on the conductor. So that's noise rejection. It is geometry. And if you've ever built a home network, you know that between a Cat5 and a Cat6 and a Cat6A, there's improvements in bandwidth. You can go from 100 megabits all the way to 10 gigabits. And a lot of it has to do with how the cable is spun together. And that's what's been done in HDMI 48. And this cable is called ultra high speed. And there is a very strict set of tests to be done. And the entire lineup at AudioQuest has been tested for this. And you'll find the stickers on most boxes. If you see one without a sticker, it is possible. We launched a product kind of at the same time they launched this certification. So to get products in for holiday 2020, some boxes were released without the stickers. The product has been certified, and it's just a rolling change for us to see the sticker applied to the entire inventory. The box is something very interesting, and for a customer that likes to know more, and I'm sure that's you today because you're on this call, we've put all the information on the box. So all the ingredients that Isaac talked about are on the box, explaining the amount of silver, the numbers of noise dissipation technology, what we've done to eARC, and the 48 gig is explained. And because we stand behind our product, AudioQuest HDMIs have a limited lifetime warranty. These levels are pretty simple, and as you move through the line, we'll go from 1 to 6, and we're adding extra technology like carbon and graphene and DBS to do less harm to the signal. But something very important that we do across all of our cable is control for directionality. There is a leaving effect when you pull metal through a die that will create those lacerations you see on screen. Well, noise always looks for the path of least resistance. So every cable in the world, doesn't matter that that's an AudioQuest cable, has that effect. We pay attention and we control it. So all 19 conductors are controlled to be in the right direction to guide the noise away from the signal and away from your TV screen, away from your speakers. This is really, really important. It's a level 1, it's a baseline for us. We don't have to do it to meet the ultra high speed certification, but we do it because it matters and you can hear it. The connector really helps as well, because if you're draining away that noise, it needs to go somewhere. So we have a die-cast connector. So on top of being aesthetically more pleasing and more durable, it is quieter. It is a better way to design a die-cast mold versus the free cable that would come with your cable box, for example. As you go up, you get extra layers of noise dissipation. So we'll have metal added at the cinnamon level, which is our most popular cable. Carbon, which is really my favorite. If you're into home theater and building something with a receiver, with a dedicated room, you want to look at carbon. And we use carbon because that material will absorb the noise and turn it into heat. So it's a really nice way to dissipate. And we go up all the way to level 5 and level 6 in the family with models like Vodka, Thunderbird, Firebird, and Dragon, with increasing levels of silver plating, increasing levels of noise dissipation in our proprietary and patented DBS technology. But really, HDMI 48 is better at all resolution. Yes, our cables can do more and can meet the demand of your new Xbox, your new PlayStation, but they're also better at noise dissipation. So even if you're just enjoying movies, even if you're still rocking a Blu-ray player or a DVD player, or even if you're listening to 2-channel music because you don't have 5 or 7 or 12 speakers in your listening room, you only have 2, you'll get a better experience because the cable's doing less harm to the signal and you're enjoying the content and what your system can do better. We wanted to keep this really brief and get times for questions because we know when we do these sessions, always lots of questions. So Emily, I've seen a little pop-up on there, but I'll let you see if we have any questions from the audience.
Yeah, so far it's been mostly me just reminding people to use the chat box to ask questions, but
Okay.
there was one question that had come in on the on the submission form prior, which talks about, the audio cable interconnect business, that sometimes people don't fully understand, why things are priced a certain way. And I think you touched on that a little bit here, but, the question is specifically, what does AudioQuest do to address the unfortunate perception that all cables aren't that different, that's something that costs $50 versus something that costs $5,000, it really can't be that different, right? So if you guys wouldn't mind touching on that a little bit more, I would appreciate it.
I'll let you go, Isaac.
Sure. I think it's a great question and something that comes up a lot and is totally valid. I think to restate it is, hey, there's a lot of stuff in the industry that feels like it's a lot of money and I'm not getting a lot. And without naming names, there are some products that contribute to this. Silver-plated copper, which you'll find in some of our HDMI cables for hundreds of dollars, you'll find in power cables for tens of thousands of dollars. And that is really hard for people. AudioQuest is the largest specialty manufacturer of cables in audio video, just as a matter of scale. And we're able to use economies of scale to bring down technologies to really affordable price points. So even our most expensive stuff, the most expensive things that we make, rather than using less expensive materials like silver-plated copper, things that you can get at commodity prices, something that I touched on and Fred showed you in HDMI, we deploy a lot of gauge weight of solid, pure silver. This is a very expensive material. It's not commodity silver, it's highly specialized. The real hallmark of our technologies, as Fred indicated, is in our noise dissipating technologies. And this is where a lot of the money comes. A lot of people use things like Teflon and other extruded materials in order to insulate everything, but we spend a lot of time worrying about energy before it makes its way to critical insulation. So shielding the shield, when you get up to our most exotic materials we employ, or exotic designs, we employ things like graphene. And as a first in the industry, the Mythical Creatures actually protects shields from noise with carbon-loaded material before noise makes it to the inside of the cable at all. So that's where a lot of the money at AudioQuest goes to, is to preventing noise and distortion from making its way into the cable. And it's that protection mechanism and then the solid silver in particular that costs the most money within the line. So wherever you're at in terms of price, the goal for AudioQuest is to have made something that sounds and looks awesome. So whatever your budget is, we promise we have something that'll make it better for you, or
Great.
less bad.
Yeah, less bad, right? Isaac, that's a great response to that. And, when we talked last week, I think it was, we all had a kind of a pre-interview call. We talked a little bit about how, AudioQuest does a great job of finding that top tier and pushing that limit and testing and doing R&D and all of that, and then being able to scale down from that perfect situation. And I think that gives us a lot of opportunity as Paulsons to work with our clients to find those pieces of their setup or their perfect vision that really need that big investment, and then the best version in the rest of the budgetary. And a lot of that is made possible through a large scale, like what you provide from AudioQuest.
One of the things that I think is really exciting for you guys at Paulsons is when somebody picks up a Pearl 48, the same fundamental design for that cable that costs a few scores of dollars, the same technology fundamentally is in Dragon, which costs a couple $1,000s. They are the same, it's just adding more expensive ingredients. And that's something that, to your point, only comes from being able to work at the top and then figuring out how to bring all that technology down to really affordable levels.
Absolutely. We had one more question that was direct sent to me. So Chris asks, I'm using Cinnamon. How important is it to keep interconnects from power cords from devices, and how?
I'd love to toss that to Fred, as we get lots of questions about best value. And I think Cinnamon and its cousins within our line are a great example of that.
Yeah, the secret, one of the secret of the brand is if you see a red cable, that's usually where we pick that color for the best value. So it's not the entry level, it's not the high end, but if you're looking at a middle of the road, really, really good value for the money. Cinnamon, Red River, Irish Red, and the subwoofer are usually a good choice. So Chris, yes, you want to keep your power cables away from everything. Your digital cables are very sensitive to low level signal. Your phono cable at your turntable is probably the most delicate one, but even analog interconnect. So you want to separate them. Cable management is important. Sometimes buying the shortest cable to save a few bucks is cool, but get the extra length to be able to move around your product and get a better cable dressing. Sometimes when you're dealing with a great retailer like Paulson's, they have installers that can do this for you and do this for a living. I'm not great at it. I've got a buddy that dressed my rack when he built it. He's way faster than me and has more patience. So, but yeah, segregating power and signal is really, really important. Using cable ties, Velcro ties when you can, or just getting the right piece of furniture where you can have holes where the cables are away from each other. And listen, sometimes if you find a problem, you may have to unplug and retry. There's some trial and error there that even Isaac was telling me on his system that's quite complex, that he's had to reroute a couple of things a few times and listen to it to get the best result. And that applies for something very, very high end to even a modest system. I've had to troubleshoot simple turntable and an integrated setup, and we really just had to move the phono cable away from a wall wart that was from the modem, or move, actually in that case we moved the router to a different place in the room and totally fixed it. So cables are antennas, they'll pick up noise. If you can give them a break and help them to be away from the noisier portion, it's the best practice for sure.
And sometimes you can't help but run cables in your system in ways that they have to interact. And as Fred was mentioning, in my system, which is pretty complex, phono is the most challenging one. When in doubt, follow the rule of right angles. If you need to pass an analog interconnect or a phono cable over power or power cable and you have no choice, try to do it at a right angle, and that will minimize the amount of contact. The other low-cost investment that will substantially reduce noise and interaction in your system is the addition of fog lifters. By lifting the cables a little bit off the ground, not only can you separate them from each other more efficaciously, but you'll also reduce the amount of RF noise being reflected from your floor. And your floor is a huge mirror, essentially. It's a huge plane that just reflects energy right back up. So that's the other thing you can do to minimize noise if you're finding that you're struggling with that.
Great, thank you guys. One more question came in and then we're gonna move on to the next topic. For power cables, are AudioQuest cables a real step up from what would be included with a high-end unit?
Oh yes. So the power cable that's free in the box, and we call usually those free in the box cable the spare tires, and Rick on the call coined that phrase and I've been repeating it since. They have three jobs. They need to power the equipment, be as cheap as possible because we're giving it away, and not kill you by using it. So they need to be safe. There's a minimum requirement. But that means that there's not a lot of time and energy spent on its performance. It's really just convenience. And any cable, even the entry-level series, the Energy X or Y or Z, are a huge step up versus that free cable. The comparison usually sometimes is even bigger because you have a point of reference. You have something that's really, really cheap versus anything that was designed for performance. That if you compare two speaker cables, well, one design might be different than ours, and is it better or worse? That's up to debate, and that's for you to listen for it. But the free power cable is the first one to replace. And even looking at the inexpensive $99 Energy X3 is a huge improvement, even on a humble system. And the good thing with power is that it's a standard. The next amp you'll buy, the next subwoofer you'll buy, will probably have the same plug. So you can buy a cable now and use it in the years to come on your future upgrades. And I have cables I bought 12 years ago that they were on my amp, now they went on my CD player, now they're on my downstairs system, and reuse them. And I've upgraded through the years with the higher end models.
Awesome. That was from Ed, so thank you for that. And then Chris said, thanks, the longer cables will help me. Yeah, remember, it's not like extension cords. You can't just like trim it and then like tape them together. It doesn't really work that way. I know at least that much. So, and Chris has a follow-up. So for two stereo sound quality, which is better connection, HDMI or coax? He said for DSD, which I don't know what that means, but you probably know what that means.
Yeah, so this is tricky, and this is one of those things that really depends upon the system and how the components are designed. So there are cases, legacy components that are really excellent, very high quality power supplies, lots of filtering, and they might not have HDMI. They might only have SPDIF coax or Toslink, the optical version of that standard. And sometimes they still outperform HDMI if the manufacturers are using the less expensive chipsets. Now, as Freddie talked about as we went through this, there are manufacturers who are deploying ever escalating higher performance versions of that 2.1 HDMI chipset. And when you get to that level, then HDMI might have an advantage, especially with the newest HDMI cables from AudioQuest, because we treat each one of those individual pairs. This is a little extra technical information, but it's not really pairs. It's actually 3. There's a ground reference. And the real magic, if you will, of AudioQuest 48 is the realization that there are 5 mini AES EBU or balanced connections within each HDMI cable. Even we hadn't realized that before. And by treating that ground reference as equal, the level of performance you'll get from your HDMI connected components is going to go up substantially. So you got to try both. I'm sorry to say it's not as easy as knowing for sure one is better. Depends upon the component, but it's worth a comparison.
Great. And then Phil just wanted for clarification. He said, when Isaac says HDMI, does he mean 12S or HDMI for audio and video?
Now that's interesting. So I2S, so for those who don't know, that's a really great question. I just want to explain what that is for a second for everybody else. So I2S or I2S or 12S, depending upon how you read it, but it's I2S, is an internal communication protocol for digital chips. So this is how every component in your system that's digital talks to itself. Some components are allowed to output that I2S protocol. When you do that, and the components are from the same manufacturer, that will almost always sound better because they know exactly what they're doing, what their pinout is. And with AudioQuest 48, every set of information, all 5 of those balanced sets are treated the same. So it doesn't matter how the manufacturer deploys I2S, you're going to get the best version of it. That's a great question.
Awesome. Well, we're all caught up in the chat box, so I'm going to let you guys move forward. Thank you so much for those answers. There's lots of thanks flying through the chat to me. Thanks.
Thank you guys so much for those questions. We really do appreciate them. So I guess with that, we'll turn it to Chris, yeah?
Yeah, Emily just disappeared for a second, so I guess we're in charge while she's gone. And you're muted.
Oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes, that's the first time that I have talked while muted on all of these sessions. I got to session 7 of 8 before I did that. So there, good. Now I don't have to worry about it. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I have such, Zoom professionals here to learn from. All right, Chris, it's your turn, my friend.
I'm getting there.
Cool. All right, everybody, thank you again so much for being here. Make sure that you keep an eye on that chat box if questions come up. Cool, thank you, Chris. We're seeing your slides coming up, and now Chris is going to take
We've got the Paulson's audio, video, and more up.
Yep, we've got that. Looks beautiful. Thank you.
Wonderful.
So Chris is with GoldenEar, and he's going to take us on a little journey through audio excellence right quick.
So first and foremost, good afternoon and welcome to the GoldenEar portion of the Paulson's Audio Music Matters event. I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to attend. We really do appreciate it. And I also want to thank Emily and everybody at Paulson's for taking the time to put this together and to bring it to you guys in such a way that everybody can enjoy it and benefit from it, either through Zoom and doing it online remotely or being able to come into the store. During these times of COVID, things are a little bit more challenging. And during these times as well, music and home theater and home entertainment, when we're spending more time at home and more time with our family, is more important than ever before. So, oh, didn't work. Why didn't it work? We're supposed to change screens here. Might have to do this manually.
Click the PowerPoint window, Chris, and then you can click. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So my name's Chris Volk, Director of Sales for the Eastern Region. Here's my contact information, email address, and telephone number. Feel free to make a note after the call if there's any questions. If you're building a system, you have setup questions, anything I can do, don't hesitate to call or shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to help. And why did it jump? How rude. Ha, we'll get through this. So today, some of the things we want to talk about are a little bit about GoldenEar history, what we strive to bring to market, and what makes us tick, besides great sounding music and home theater, without question. So one of the things that you've heard from us over the years, you've seen it in ads, you've seen it and heard it at shows and things of that nature, is we make high-end affordable. A primary design philosophy is best of class performance with unmatched value in every product that we bring to market. Our goal is to knock everybody's socks off and just blow people away. And I'm going to start doing this manually because this is going nuts on me. How rude. So GoldenEar was founded in 2010 by Sandy Gross and has been one of the world's best-selling loudspeaker brands in a very short period of time. Though we're a relatively new speaker brand on the market, just celebrating our 10-year anniversary last year, we have hundreds of years of combined speaker innovation and development behind the scenes. We're based in Irvine, California, recently becoming part of the Quest Group, with an engineering facility in Orne-Pryor, Ontario, up in Canada. Engineering is split between our facility in Irvine, as well as the facility in Orne-Pryor, where we have a fully instrumented anechoic chamber to be able to test and measure drivers and products through every stage of the design process. We're going to try this and see if it goes one. It did go one. Bravo. So the foundation, if you will, of the GoldenEar voice is the concept of suspension of disbelief. And I know that's a term that many have heard. We've heard it before in the industry. And what we mean by this is the ability of the loudspeaker to completely disappear when you sit down and set it up correctly in your space. We're experts in 2-channel imaging, soundstage, depth of field is what we do best. Unfortunately, we sometimes get pigeonholed as a home theater speaker because we've got speakers with powered bottom ends and bass sections and subwoofers. But in order to do home theater well, you first have to do music well. If you can do music well and you get music right, transferring that and translating that to home theater is pretty easy. If somebody tells you that a speaker was designed primarily for home theater, basically what they're telling you is don't listen to it with music because it's going to give you all the flaws and things are going to stand out. But when you listen to it with home theater, it's going to do a fine job. So as we look at this slide, a couple of cool things here. So we've got the finished product with a Triton 1.R on the right. You've got the sexy high gloss black monocue cabinet. You've got the nice bass, very slim design, sleek, sexy appeal that will fit just about any decor. And there on the left, we've got a cutaway of the cabinet. One of the things that's pretty interesting to do is when you take that grill off or when you take that sock down, depending on the individual product that we're referring to, there's a lot under the hood. So as we look at that cutaway there on the left, we've got the 2 5.25. We use a high velocity folded ribbon tweeter, which as you look at that diagram is a little bit lower than what a lot of people expect. I oftentimes see people going up to one of the speakers and putting their ear up a little bit higher, trying to listen to that tweeter and hear what's going on with that top end. One of the reasons we do that, and the primary reason we do that, especially with our taller towers, is to bring that sweet spot down closer to the seated position so that when you're sitting down listening to music, that tweeter is at a relatively even plane with your seated position. And we hold that true through almost all of the towers. Some of the smaller ones, it's a little bit lower. We just don't have the height of the tower. But if you were to take all 6 models side by side, that tweeter almost level across the entire line of tower speakers that we offer. 4 of the towers have an active bass section on the bottom end. It's essentially a built-in subwoofer. One of the benefits to that is we take the tacks off the receiver. The receiver, your amplifier, only has to power the top end. We power the bottom end and take that current, take that load off the individual amplifier. And one of the benefits with that, you get a real smooth roll off on the bottom end. If you choose to incorporate a subwoofer in the room, it makes it very easy to incorporate a separate subwoofer if you choose to. But one of the biggest benefits is amplifier choice. You can drive these speakers with just about any amplifier on the market. They're very easy to drive, and in most cases, very friendly to most amplifiers. Specifically, tube amplifiers. And I think we talked about tubes a little earlier in the previous section, but one of the benefits with the powered section is we get a nice resistive load on the bottom end. So if you're using a tube amplifier, you get the speed, you get the control, you get the handoff to that tube amplifier very nicely. You have dynamics and bass with a full range dynamic loudspeaker, which, as most of you know, with a tube amplifier, tubes and dynamics are 2 things that sometimes don't go very well together because tube amplifiers oftentimes don't have the the dynamics, they don't have the current capability or the damping factor to control the bottom end. With our powered loudspeakers, you get dynamics as well as the warmth and the brilliance of the bottom end. So one of the things as you go through the line that we strive really hard to do is to maintain a family sound throughout the entire speaker line. So you can pick and choose and mix and match in different categories, and you don't have to worry about what's going to happen as you change categories because you want an on-wall center speaker, because you can't use a traditional center channel, or you're doing an in-wall here and a tower here. As long as you maintain horsepower, you can mix and match and choose just about anything within the line and not have to worry about what's going to happen when things pan across that sound field, or what happens when things fade from front to back in the room if you're in a home theater environment. So just a little bit about some of the details. We use a high velocity folded ribbon in almost everything that we do. Real quick, we won't spend a lot of time on it. You can see the fold mylar there on the left next to the tweeter. Essentially what you have is a piece of mylar that if you folded that out or straightened that out is a relatively large piece of mylar. The voice coil is essentially printed right on that mylar, folded. The end result is your radiating surface area is a lot greater than what you get with most tweeters. In most cases, it's 4 to 5 times the amount of radiating surface area that you would get with other tweeters. Mid-range drivers, again, everything's built in-house, designed in-house. We don't use anything off the shelf. Everything is designed either in Irvine or in Orne Pryor at our facility in Canada. In the case of the mid-range driver, it's a little hard to see, and I won't go into great detail on this either, but if you had one in your hand, that cone has a little bit of a convex shape, and part of that is to help form that waveform off the cone so that you get a more efficient wave launch, less distortion, lower phasing issues, and the same thing holds true. We've got the multi-vane phase plug that you can see there as well, and again, designed to help with the wave launch, formation, lower distortions, and lower phasing issues from that mid-range driver. Four of the 6 towers are powered. We have an amplifier section on the back. You can run them with a great 2-channel integrated amp. You can run them with a receiver, run straight to speaker wire from the amplifier, from the amplifier directly to the plate module on the back of the speaker. There's a gain control there on the upper right that you can see. That's strictly a gain control. It doesn't have any effect over the crossover point. If you get the speakers home, maybe you want a little less bass in your space, you can turn them down just a little bit. You want a little bit more bass, you can turn them up just a little bit, but there's a resting point at straight up, which is essentially flat. You'll also see there on the right, there's also an LFE connection. If you want to use an LFE cable and run dedicated cables to them, you can in a home theater environment. So just real quick, we won't spend a lot of time. This is a diagram on wiring in a home theater environment. If you choose to use LFE cables, you can split it from the point of the LFE output, take one to the left channel, one to the right channel. A lot of receivers, a lot of equipment these days has dedicated dual LFE outputs. If it's an instance where you have dual outputs, just run a dedicated to the left and a dedicated to the right. Benefit with the powered section on the bottom end is you now have 2 subwoofers in the room. 2 subwoofers is better than 1. You're going to get better coverage, better dynamics, better sound quality across the board. And that's going to hold true in your home theater environment as well as your 2-channel environment when you sit down and listen to music. So here's just a quick image, 6 models that we offer. 4 of them are powered, as we discussed. 2 of them are passive. Those are the 2 on the right. Our 2 reference models are the Triton Reference and the Triton 1.R, which are shown there on the left. And the biggest difference with those, if you're familiar with GoldenEar over the history, we moved away from the traditional sock wrap and that cloth wrap that we've done for years, and we moved to a high gloss piano black finish monocue cabinet, which is just absolutely stunning. And I do know the guys at Paulson's have a pair of Triton 1.Rs on display. If you've not had a chance to stop into the store and listen, it's a pretty remarkable loudspeaker if you get the chance. So moving forward, a little too far. We offer 3 models in our bookshelf range. We've only shown the BRX, which is our bookshelf reference X. We brought those out middle of last year, give or take, early last year. The BRX the reference model as well, similar to the Triton 1.R and the Triton Reference. We've moved away from the sock that we do on the Aeon 2s and the Aeon 3s and moved to the high gloss black cabinet, mono-Q finish, beautiful speaker if you get a chance to take a listen and take a look at them.
Hey, Chris.
6-inch driver, again, the ribbon tweeter. We're using that high velocity folded ribbon. And the one nice thing and something that's kind of unique with GoldenEar is we have passives on the left and right. I don't have an image to show you a cutaway of those two drivers, but you can see on the image there, you've got a grill cover on the right and a grill cover on the left, basically covering dual passives on the left and right hand side. Biggest benefit with this is you have a surprisingly dynamic speaker for such a small bookshelf set top speaker, depending on how you're using it. The nice thing with that is you can sit down in stereo. Maybe you've got them in an office, maybe they're in a bedroom or a small space on stands. You can sit down and listen to music. If you're not utilizing a dedicated subwoofer with them, you don't feel like you're missing anything on the bottom end. They go low enough that you've got that bass, you've got that presence, you've got that depth on the bottom end. If you want to add a subwoofer with those passives, you've got a very smooth roll off on the bottom end. You can add a subwoofer and it makes it very easy to blend that subwoofer with the BRX or the Aeon 2s or the Aeon 3s without getting that subwoofer satellite effect and hearing the difference going from that subwoofer to the satellites. It's a nice smooth blend. You can sit down, close your eyes, and not hear that crossover point and that handoff between those speakers.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
We have a few questions that have kind of backed up in the chat that are covering some of the things you're moving on from. So if we can pause for just a second. All right. So for one, what are the location constraints for the BRX? Gary is asking specifically, can they actually be put in a bookshelf with those side ports?
They can be put in a bookshelf. Yes, absolutely. So they're passive drivers on the left and right. They're not actually ports. So you have a sealed enclosure with passives. Bass radiates at a 360-degree angle. So, you know, placement, what am I trying to say? Placement is in it. Let me start over. Yes, they'll work on a bookshelf. They're designed to go on a bookshelf or on stands or on a table or sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. They'll work fine on a bookshelf. You don't have to worry about the passives on the side. As long as the bookshelf is solid and you're not getting rattles and the bookshelf isn't shaking and vibrating on you, you should be fine.
So maybe not the you know, the Target $34.99 on sale bookshelf made out of, you know, press board, you know, that might not be the best fit, but
no, they're dynamic, they're solid. They image and soundstage better than just about any bookshelf on the market.
Awesome, thank you. Chuck asked, where are your speakers manufactured?
So good question. So engineering and design is done in Irvine, California, as well as our facility in Orne Pryor, Canada. Manufacturing is done pretty much all over the world, but primarily done in China.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question for right now is from John. He says, I've been a solid GoldenEar user and fan since the beginning. I own the T-Refs and the 1.Rs. My question are there any new products on the horizon, and will there be any new colors of previous models? Which I feel like you might be getting into what's coming soon.
Well, so we don't get into a what's coming soon in this. And the short answer to that is yes, there's some pretty cool things going on behind the scenes from an engineering standpoint. I would love to be able to tell you more, because there's a couple of items that I am honestly really excited to see come to market. What I will tell you is that some of the design and engineering has been slowed, unfortunately, due to COVID and some of the challenges that everybody has been facing with COVID. We originally had a couple of models we were anticipating to bring to market this year that it appears are probably going to get pushed into next year, unfortunately, and that is just trying to get things accomplished in these challenging times has been tough. We do have a couple of items that we will see this year, and we do have some things that once they hit, there's a couple of things that people are just going to look at and go, wow, that's phenomenal. From a color standpoint, there aren't going to be a lot of changes in color, but it is something that's being tossed around a little bit and discussed. I don't know what's going to happen there, but it's being discussed behind the scenes is pretty much what I can say there.
Well, we appreciate you giving us what you can. I know a lot of things are sensitive, and it's been really amazing to watch that. There is not a single one of our brand partners who has not been impacted in some way from supply chain, R&D, any of those things by COVID, right? That's just the reality, and that's true for so many industries right now. But we love that we get such consistent communication out of you guys. You're keeping us, tuned in to when we can expect things, and I know for us in the Paulson showroom, we're always ready for new products, and the second we get them, all of our clients are going to know about it.
And to that point, I will say thank you to the guys at Paulson's, and then all the customers and the people that are on the phone. For the last year going through this and having supply chain issues, running out of product here and there, things are stuck in port. We can't get things offloaded. We can't get things moved. Customers, for the most part, have been absolutely wonderful during all of this and very patient to wait for things that we should have that, thank you very much to COVID, are taking longer to build, and supply chains are being affected. So from that aspect, people have been wonderful over the last year. They really have.
Absolutely. I mean, our clients are fantastic and very understanding, and they're just happy to know, once they're able to know what's coming, we can help them plan out their projects, we can adjust timelines and all of that kind of stuff. So thank you, Chris, for taking those questions. That's all we have for right now. So I'll let you loose to move forward.
Okay. And so 2 models of the bookshelves that we don't show here, the Aeon 2 and the Aeon 3, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Paulson's has all 3 of those models on display if you want to take a stop in and listen. We do offer multiple subwoofers, and we won't spend a lot of time here, mainly because we don't have a lot of time. We offer our force fields and our super subs, 2 models in the force fields, which is a traditional 10 and a traditional 8 and a passive, traditional 10 and a passive. And then we offer 2 subwoofers, which are the Super Sub X and the Super Sub X XL. The Super Sub X, the guys at Paulson's have on the floor as well. A little bragging point on the Super Sub X, that was the subwoofer of the year from the Absolute Sound in 2019. And something that's a little different with that subwoofer is we use a technology that we call differentially balanced. And in short, what we do in both of those subwoofers is we have 2 active drivers, one on the left, one on the right. We have 2 passive drivers, one on the top, one on the bottom. And what we do with the inertially balanced system is essentially cancel out all of the internal resonances in the cabinet. And essentially, it is an absolutely rock solid cabinet. There's no vibration. You can play it in Paulson's showroom to the point that the room is shaking. Walk up, put your hand on the cabinet, and you can't physically identify that it's playing. It is rock solid. It's fast. It's tight. It will give you tonality and musicality. With music, you can put it in a home theater and get the earth-shaking bass response that you're looking for in a home theater as well. Very versatile little subwoofer on that little guy. On walls, we offer our SuperSats, 3 models. We offer a SuperSat 30, SuperSat 50, and a SuperSat 60. Can be used on wall, left, right, and center, around a panel, around a screen. You can throw it on side walls for side surrounds and rear surrounds. I've had guys that have put them on ceilings and used them for front height and rear height and Dolby Atmos and DTSX applications. I've had guys that have put them in the corners, up in the front of the room and in the back of the room, and fired them in at a 45-degree angle for home theater and Dolby Atmos and DTSX as well, and even on 45s in the corners in the back of the room. It's a pretty versatile speaker that you can get creative with on those little guys. 2 sound bars. Our sound bars are passive, so you do need a receiver or something to drive them with as well. We offer this 3D Array X and the 3D Array XL, which is a 3-channel for left, right, and center. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they are the best sounding sound bar on the market, bar none, and a very versatile sound bar as well. One of the nice things with them, you can throw them in a bedroom, use it in a bedroom for a couple years. Your living situation changes, maybe you move, you have a space that you can dedicate for a home theater. You now have the ability to do a small home theater. With those being passive, you can use that as your left, right, and center. You can throw something up in the ceiling for front height and rear height, add side surrounds, add rear surrounds, and essentially build that out to a full 5.1 system, a full 7.1 system. You can build it into an Atmos or a DTSX system as well, which interesting story with the soundbars that unfortunately we don't have time to share. And I wish we did. It's actually a really interesting and kind of funny story. So moving on with the family sound concept, if you will, when you get into our architectural products, we offer a full range of in-walls, we offer in ceilings, we offer side surrounds and rear surrounds with a more diffuse sound with splayed mid-range drivers. And when you get into our architectural side as well, what you're going to find is we maintain that same high velocity folded ribbon through our architecturally based speakers as well. So if you're using Triton 1.Rs in the front, or you're using Triton 2 Plus in the front, and you want to use front height and rear height, when you sit down and take a listen and get everything set up, that sound quality and that performance and that voicing, if you will, of the brand is going to be very similar all the way through that system, depending on how you build it out. So you don't have to worry about what's going to happen when things pan across that sound field or fade from front to back. So didn't really get a chance to talk about it too much. We do 2-channel stereo phenomenally well. We incorporate into home theater with Dolby Atmos and DTSX for a traditional 5.1 or 7.1 system very well. We do a lot in the home theater environment. This image basically shows Triton product up front, Triton's in the back. You can utilize SuperSats on the side. You can use our Invisive products in the ceiling and build that system out based on budgetary constraints, performance levels, the size of the room, whatever it might be that's dictating what you're going to do in that space or how you want that system to perform. So in close, and hopefully I did okay on time. In closing, first and foremost, thank you to everybody. Just wanted to overview similar technologies all the way through the line with the high velocity folded ribbon, full line of active towers. Don't need a separate subwoofer in the room. You've got dual subs built in with the active towers. Soundbars, best sounding soundbars on the market, bar none. Give you a chance to take a listen in our subwoofer line as well. Basically, we try really hard to bring you best of performance, best of value through the entire product line. With that, I will say thank you, and I'm sure Emily's going to mention it as well, but I did want to bring up that they're offering 10% off on loudspeakers. I believe it's through March 13th, so if you have an opportunity to go into the store and take a listen, there certainly are some benefits to taking the time out to attend these events. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that. We have some awesome Audio Month promotions going on. And for everyone who registered to attend these sessions, we are extending those discounts into the middle of March, March 13th. So I will be emailing out that certificate, that coupon for everybody. And then it is also included in our amenity boxes. Let's see if any more questions come in. I'll do a little bit of housekeeping, and then if any more questions come in, I'll shout them out. So again, thank you everyone so much. Chris, Fred, Isaac, Rick, it's such a pleasure to have you guys. You're seriously a hoot, and I have such a blast chatting with you. Now I've gotten to talk to you every week for a couple weeks, and next week I'll probably just set up a Zoom and to chit chat. So I will let Dan, Paulson, Chris, if either of you or both of you want to say something.
No, I'd just like to extend my thank you so much. You guys put on an awesome presentation. I always learn something from these events, and once again, definitely a lot of good takeaways. I appreciate your information and taking the time to help grow our business together. And thank you to everybody who joined us. And as Chris mentioned, we do have some specials that have been going for Music Matters that technically end Saturday, but anyone who's attended these presentations, we are extending that for 2 weeks. So here to take care of you. And once again, thank you everybody for attending. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks guys for having us.
Awesome. Couple of quick housekeeping things. Fun fact, this has been our largest attended session of the entire week. So Fred, Isaac, Chris, yep, you can put a gold star on your calendars. So nice work, everyone. Couple things. We have one final session that is today at 4 p.m. Eastern time, Detroit time. So that will be with Paradigm and Anthem. They will be presenting together, much like you saw today, a couple of great brands coming together for, you know, this fantastic collaboration. Check your email for the links. I sent them last night. You can see them on our Facebook. I always post them within the hour of the meeting starting. Make sure that if you are local, you stop in to get your amenity box. This has some wonderful items in it from both AudioQuest and GoldenEar. Thank you both so much for your generosity and for helping us to thank our clients for participating in this event this week. Remember, every session you attend is an entrance into the giveaway. So if you attend this afternoon, you get an extra entry. We'd love to see you. And our giveaway this year includes a Sonance Patio Series with amp outdoor audio system, $2,000 value. It includes a Sonos Move all-weather, indoor, outdoor, everything but the kitchen sink, Bluetooth, wireless, smart speaker. That is a $400 value. It also includes a Bowers & Wilkins custom vinyl set. It's a collector's box that was curated for demo on the 700 series speakers. That's a value of over $130. It includes Allman Brothers Band, Ryan Adams, Lord, Gregory Porter, and John Coltrane vinyls. So, and if you pick up your amenity box, you'll have a nice record brush in there from AudioQuest to make sure they're nice and squeaky clean if you win them. So thank you again so much, you guys. Such a pleasure and such a blast. And for everyone else, we hope to see you at 4 o'clock today or when you stop in to get your amenity box. So thank you so much. Isaac, Keith says he digs your long hair, and there's lots of, that's Keith Esterly, of course. And everyone is being very, yep, everyone's being very complimentary in the chat. Keith, I thought you were talking to me at first. So thank you all. Have a beautiful rest of your week and your weekend. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.